Hello and welcome to Ode to Games. I'm Kevin Valleen, joined alongside Logan Plant. How you doing, Logan?
I'm doing great, Kev. How you doing?
I'm doing good. We've also got Zach Rost. How's it going, Zach?
Going pretty well.
So let's dive into it. We got another new game to talk about
Oh
this
boy,
week.
it just keeps going.
Well, we knew this was going to happen, or at least for you two. Going back a
Yeah,
couple of weeks, months to that list that we made where I had like 3 games and you had 10 or 12. We are in the thick of that. The new game out, Metroid Dread. Logan has played it, has beaten it, correct?
I did. I beat it an hour ago, right before this
Wow,
show.
perfect timing. So let's hear your thoughts. How is it? How is it worth the wait for fans? It's been a long time since the last mainline non-remake 2D Metroid game.
Yeah, this is. I'll just straight up say it. I think this is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. I think it's my favorite game this year, besides Space Attorney, but that's a special thing for me personally. So, as far as like Game of the Year voting, I would vote for this over anything else that I've played so far this year. Um, I think it is as important to the Metroid series as Mario Odyssey is to Mario and Breath of the Wild is to Zelda. I think it's a top five Switch game. I absolutely am in love with this game. I think it's incredible. And I've never finished a Metroid until this one all the way through. And this one I beat in 5 days. It's so unbelievably good.
I think you've said before you weren't like the biggest fan of Metroidvania style games,
No.
correct? How was it in this?
Yeah, so there's the big difference with this game is just how fun it is to move around as Samus. And that is what made it for me. Is that I always found other Metroidvanias I've played not that fun because like in Super Metroid, Samus isn't that fun to control because it's an older game. She's slower. She doesn't just have the kind of fluidity that is here in Dread. She's so fast in Metroid Dread, and everything is so fluid. You can just blast through these rooms and these areas, and it makes the backtracking fun because she's just fun to play as. It's just enjoyable to move around in this world, and you are constantly getting new abilities. It feels like they turned the quality of ability up a few notches right away. Like usually you build slowly up, but you're just getting good stuff right out of the gate that makes Samus even more fun to control and gives you even more options in both movement and combat. And that's just the big difference is this game is so smooth and fast that I didn't mind the backtracking and I actually enjoyed it because I felt more immersed in the world just because of how fun it was to control.
How were the stalkers? I don't know their actual
Dude,
name, but
the Emmys,
the Emmys. Okay.
it's awesome. That's another thing that just really I think elevated this game is that I felt in previous Metroids it feels very samey after a while. You're just like, okay, new area. I can't do anything yet until I get the thing, and then I can do everything. But with this, it's like you're working your way around the Emmy area, trying to avoid going in there as much as you can, and then when you do have to go in there, you like take a deep breath, and your goal isn't to explore, right? The goal of every Metroid is to explore the areas, find everything, search every nook and cranny. But when you're in the Emmy zone, it's like get the heck out of there as fast as you can, and it's really good. The dread, as the title says, is there. They're very stressful to avoid. The atmosphere in those areas is fantastic. The music is very good. It gets kind of this like fog of war effect on the corners of the map, of the corners of the screen. So it's like a little fuzzier when you're in there when the enemy's stalking you. Just makes it feel more intense and intimate. And so that's really good. And then when you get the power to destroy them, it's like a whole nother puzzle because you get this gun that you can only use to destroy the enemy, and it's a one-time use. So once you kill the enemy, it's gone. So the goal of every Emmy area is to find this thing, destroy the Emmy, and then that area is kind of unlocked for you to explore without fear of being chased down by this thing. So, but to destroy it, it's a two-part process. The first is it has like the shield around its face, and you need to just fire it with bullets from this special gun until the face shield explodes. And then you need to charge a shot all the way up, and it takes like 8 seconds to do that, and then shoot it at an exposed face. So you have to destroy the heat shield and then run away and get more distance from it, charge up the attack, wait for it to show up again, and shoot its face. And so it's just a really cool puzzle that it plays with a lot in the different areas because every Emmy room is vastly different from the last. in terms of design. So yeah, I really liked that part of it. I did die a lot, but the loading time to respawn is instant, and there's a checkpoint at the outside of every single Emmy door. So the second you die, you're right back at the area that you entered the Emmy zone through. And that's something else I really like about it, is that it is these confined zones. So it's not like the tyrant in Resident Evil 2 that's always chasing you
Yeah,
and just
even
is
into your,
really
like,
scary the
safe
whole
zone.
time. Yeah, and the Emmys never break out of the Emmy zones. So you always know where they will be and where they won't be. And I really enjoyed that part of it too, was that I knew when I was going to go and have to avoid this thing. It never surprises you. And I liked that part of it too.
Were you playing some of the other Metroid games before this? I couldn't remember. You were playing
Yeah, I
some
was.
of them, right? Okay.
You're a Metroid, right?
Yeah, I kind of fell through. I decided I didn't want to burn myself out before Dread, which I think was a good call, because I beat Zero Mission earlier this year. Samus Returns I've played like half of in the past. Super Metroid I've played like 90% of in the past, but got really stuck near the end. Fusion I played like a third of. So I've played parts of all 4 2D Metroids leading to this one, but just never finished one. But this one was just so good that I'm already done with it.
In terms of like story, where is Metroid Dread as someone who hasn't completed any of the other games and is not, I guess, technically seen all the stories through, especially considering that this is the last game of this current story, correct?
Yeah, it is. And I was kind of caught off guard at how much I really enjoyed the story. It's people hate Metroid Other M, right? Because it just shoehorns in all these cutscenes, and Samus isn't as badass as she usually is, and she's very badass in this game. She is awesome. But this game tells its story in a really great way. There's very few cutscenes, but when they are there, they matter a lot. There's very little dialogue, but what is there is really good. And so it's more story than I think is really in the other 2D Metroid games. And I knew the basic plot of what happened in the first 4, just from playing them so much and just from hearing about them. But I watched like a 30-minute recap video on the first 4 before jumping into Dread, so I was caught up to speed. And honestly, that's my recommendation. If you want to play this game, just catch yourself up on the lore on a YouTube video. Nintendo Life has a good one that's really in-depth. And then just hop into Dread and you really won't feel lost.
That's good, yeah. That was always the concern with the final game of a series, and 2, the final game of a series that hasn't seen a new entry in so long. Yeah. The story would kind of leave.
And there's a nice recap to kick off the game, too. There's like a 5-minute little recap about who Samus is and why she's going to this planet and what Metroids are and what the Parasite X is from Fusion. So there's a really good catch-up at the start of this game, too, that might even be enough, too, just to get what's going on.
Any issues you have with it, or is it truly perfect?
It's not quite perfect. I do think it's a 10 out of 10, but not quite perfect. There's really only 2. There are 2 issues I have at all. And the first one is that while the Emmy zones are varied in their layouts, they all look the same. They all just look like these laboratories. And so Metroid, it's super important to remember places you've been. Like, oh, I see that missile upgrade that I can't get yet, but I'll remember where it is and come back once I have the item I can get there. But in the Emmy zones, they're just all visually pretty much identical. There's some slight differences, but for the most part, they look the same. So they all blend together in my brain. But that's a super small critique, because the Emmy zones aren't even the whole areas. It's a very small fraction of each individual area. I didn't even talk about how this game looks. It's gorgeous. It is one of the best looking games on Switch. It runs at locked 60 the entire time.
Woo.
And it just looks amazing. Like, this might be the best looking Switch game, and it's a 2D platformer, but it is so beautiful. The backgrounds are really dynamic and alive. Like, there's a gorgeous underwater lab area that you go through, and like you're passing these windows, and these huge like squid-like things will just slam up against the glass in the background. And they don't mean anything, because all that matters is the left to right 2D plane, but just the background effects just add to the atmosphere so much. And there's these like Chozo ruined civilizations, which is super cool. There's a forest area. There's just so many cool areas, but the Emmy zones within them usually just look the same. But it's not really a big deal. And then the slightly bigger issue I have is the boss fights are largely fantastic, and the combat is amazing in this game, and the counter system is great, and you just get more powerful as it goes and take down things easier as you go on. But there are mini bosses that repeat throughout the game, and they show up 3 or 4 too many times. You fight the same type of mini boss probably 6 times in the game, and it's like too many. You're on the trek to the end, and it's like, oh, just kidding. You got to fight one more of these guys, but he gold this time, and you're like, really? And so that's the only place where it feels like it drags a little bit. I feel like maybe they were worried about its length or something, because it's a short game. I beat it in like 10 hours, but that was really my only issue, was that mini boss showed up multiple times and was not that interesting. But that's it. That's the only thing I can think of I didn't like.
That's impressive. Is it worth the $60?
Oh yeah,
that's
absolutely.
The discourse that's going on online everywhere.
That's really lame discourse. It's absolutely worth $60. Yeah, I mean, it's like the same length as Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, Uncharted 4, which are also very much worth it. It's just I hate that 2D games get crapped on for not being worth it. It's like the gameplay in this game is so phenomenal, and the story is really nice, and the atmosphere is like, yeah, it was great. And I finished it with 50% completion. There's a ton of upgrades and stuff I didn't even find, so I could go back and do that. But yeah, I really, really loved it. Everything about it. I was okay with its difficulty, but I think a caveat that some people might not like is there are some really tough fights in this game, and there's no accessibility option. It's like if you can't beat this thing, you're not getting through it. And so that is another drawback maybe for some people. It wasn't a problem for me because you guys know me. I can throw myself against a brick wall at anything forever. But yeah, it's tough. This game kicks your butt, but once you figure out kind of the tip screen even tells you every attack in this game is avoidable. Every boss fight move can be avoided. And so once you figure out the patterns and the way to avoid it, you feel really cool when you take some of these things down. Like, it just looks really good. There's these really cool cinematic zoom-ins where you're just spamming the missile button in this giant monster's face, and then it like blows up, and it's just a really good feeling. And Samus is super, super cool in this game. She has a lot of depth for saying almost nothing, which is something you can't say for like Mario or something like that, who just he's Mario, but it's like Samus like goes through some development in this game, and it's just like really fun to play as, and I can't recommend this game enough. I want you guys to try it out because it surprised me at how much I liked it.
How can we not try it out after all the praise you're singing of it? I really want to play it right now just because you won't stop talking about how much you loved it.
Yeah. I hope it wins some Game of the Year stuff. I think it should. Also because it's been a little bit of a lighter year, I think, in terms of like big blockbusters that have been hitting. I was trying to think about it, like, what even is going to get nominated, like, at the Game Awards in 2 months? I don't really know. Like,
yeah. I feel like I've played a lot this year, but I can't really think of anything
Ratchet
that
could be
out.
on
Ratchet
there.
Clank?
Rift Apart
Returnal?
did really well.
I don't know. Monster Hunter Rise? People loved that when it came out. We didn't as much, but we were pretty critical of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to get nominated, but
I feel like this year there just hasn't been as much that has like left a big impact. Like in years past, there have been games that have survived the discourse all the way until the end of the year, and those are usually the games that survive to the Game of the Year discussions and eventually win.
People really liked Hitman 3 in January.
People did like Hitman 3. That's a long time ago.
That feels a long time ago, yeah.
So I don't know. I think Metroid has a real shot at winning some Game of the Year stuff. Because from what I'm seeing, people are really loving it too. It is like an 89 on Metacritic, I think.
Pretty well received, yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. And yeah, I'm just seeing a lot of people talk about it. It seems like it's selling well. The numbers seem to say it's already outsold Samus, which did sell almost nothing.
Yeah, I'm sure it helps that it's on the Switch and not the 3DS.
Yeah, for sure. But seriously, I can't get over how good this game looks. And just the slight camera changes they make sometimes to just show off the world. It's just a gorgeous game. And it made me wish I was playing on a Switch OLED because I saw some people who were, and I'm like, dang, this is like the perfect game to launch with because the colors are just so nice in this game. Anyways, on my normal Switch, I played like the whole thing in handheld mode.
Oh, really? I was going to ask you, do you have an OLED TV that you could do it on? Or?
No. I played some on TV, but I mean, baseball playoffs are going right now. So I had that on the TV
yeah.
a lot of the time I was playing. And it just looks so great. The only time the frame drops is in the loading screens between areas, because you take like trains or elevators between the areas, and it like just does a close-up shot of Samus like standing there on the elevator, like just kind of like thinking, waiting to get off the next area, and the frames drop to like 18. Like it just is a slideshow on the loading screens, which is really fun. And then the second you step off, it's just like butter smooth.
How does that happen? Why
Yeah,
is that the
I don't
most
know.
intensive part of the game? The loading
Because they're
screens?
loading the whole. Because once you're in the area, there are no loading screens, and
Okay,
these areas
yeah.
are big. They're really big. The only time it's kind of funny, you can tell when a mini boss is about to surprise you in a room, because they just appear in normal rooms, when it takes half a second longer to get into the room, because you'll like shoot open a door, go in, and it'll be like, oh, this is taking like 2 seconds. Ah, crap, there's gonna be something showing up, and then it happens almost every time. Yeah,
It's giving you a little hint.
yeah.
You know ahead of time.
Like, get ready, it's coming. But yeah, super generous checkpoints for bosses too, not just the Emmys. It's really generous throughout. Save points throughout, places to heal throughout. But this is the hardest Nintendo game in a long time. Like, I feel like not since Breath of the Wild has there really been a Nintendo game where they like weren't afraid to let you die. And even a difference from Samus Returns is that Samus Returns gives you this scan ability like in the first 2 hours of the game. And you can scan every room to see what blocks can be broken and what item you need to do it. And so basically it turns into a scan-a-thon. You enter a room, you scan, you do what you scan, and you leave. In Dread, you don't get the scan ability until like the last third of the game. So for the first 2/3, you're on your own. And the map system is really good too. Like you have to navigate yourself by using the map. The map doesn't, there's no objective markers, no nothing. You have to figure it out on your own. And I just really, really love that in this game, because Nintendo games can be pretty handholdy. Like, especially in recent console generations, Nintendo doesn't want you to get lost, doesn't want you to abandon the game. But this game is not afraid to let you get lost, not afraid to let you die, and you just got to figure it out on your own. And I really admire it for that.
You gonna go back in to try and
Yes.
get 100? Well, not necessarily 100%, but get more completion.
Yeah, I think so. There's also a hard mode that I unlocked for beating the game. It's already hard enough, though. I feel like I don't know if I want to do that yet. But this game is so short. I will definitely this at some. It's a really nice October game. We're going to talk about spooky games later in the show. But it's just kind of the fall mood. It's been rainy here. Been getting dark earlier, colder, and it was just like a really nice fall game. So I could see myself playing this again, like Halloween time in a couple of years or something. But yeah, you guys should try it out. It's got my highest recommendation.
Yeah. See where I can fit it in.
Yeah.
All the other games I got to play, but it does look good. Been hearing nothing but good things about it. All right.
So let me talk about that for like 15 minutes. It's phenomenal. And last thing I'll say real quick, it has an ending sequence to rival Super Mario Odyssey's ending sequence, which is my favorite ending of all time. So yeah, my jaw was on the floor in the last 10 minutes of this game at how much I loved it. It was just, and I already love this. I was saying this was Ace Attorney Filter on Game of the Year before I was even done with it, and then I finished it and it was like, yeah, you just sealed the deal with how you wrapped it up. And it's just, oh my god. Doesn't make me want to go play the old ones, because I still don't think I like them very much. But I hope it's not another 19-year wait to the next. If I can look forward to a 2D Metroid that's this good every few years, that would be great.
Yeah, we'll see where they go from here. Since this is the last game in this story, it'd have to be an entirely new story. But if this game sells well, I'm sure that they want to do something more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, you have Prime 4 and presumably the trilogy on the way at some point.
Yeah, I'm more excited for Prime 4 now. Just another modern Metroid. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, do we want to hop into the little bit of news that we have this week?
Yeah, so we talked about this one for a few weeks back, but Toshihiro Nagoshi and Daisuke Sato, the producer of the Yakuza series, and Nagoshi is the creator, are leaving Sega and RGG Studio. They also confirmed in this announcement that the Like a Dragon sequel for Yakuza is currently in development that will continue Ichiban's story. So we kind of saw this coming for a while. Zach, Kev, what do you guys think?
I think this is a weird way to get a confirmation, but I'm glad to know for a fact that it's continuing. But they are leaving, so we don't really know what the state of this game is going to be like. I assume it'll be pretty similar. I think the person taking the lead is a director from previous installments or something like that.
Lead writer.
Lead writer, so
lead writer
yeah.
and producer for a long time. So
I'm sure
been
not
there
a
for a
whole
while.
lot is going to change. I was hoping that these guys go on to better or bigger things, or I don't know what's bigger than the Yakuza franchise, but
Nothing.
I'm excited to see what they move on to.
Apparently,
Yeah.
what, just a Chinese studio that makes mobile games?
Yeah, what was it?
What was it?
It wasn't Tencent. It was... Where were they going? I already
It
forgot.
was something like Tencent, but not Tencent. I can't remember.
Either way, I mean, it sounds like, at least for Negotiates, that he gets his own studio, and he presumably gets more creative
control.
freedom to do what he wants. Like, we don't know exactly how he feels. Maybe he's tired of pumping out these games every single year. I mean, it's been going every year since, 2005? 2004? So maybe for him, it's just the ability to move on from a company that he's been at for so long, go somewhere new, and be able to work on new projects and seem to have a lot of creative control.
It was really nice to see that, like, they didn't just up and leave. It seems like they left a really good core in place for Yakuza. Like, there was no ill will in this departure whatsoever based on how it was announced. It was just like, yeah, we're moving on, but this series is in good hands. And, I mean, they make so many of these games. There had to be some people who have been around for a lot of them and have kind of picked up on what makes them good.
Yeah, it's nice to know that the heads now are people that have been with the series since basically the beginning. It's always the concern that if you get a new person that's maybe only been around for the last couple of games, that they lose sight of some of the older stuff. But since you have series veterans, I have faith that the series is in good hands. We'll wait and see for Like a Dragon 2. The announcement that it's in development, it's great that we got it, but I think we all assumed as soon as Like a Dragon 1 was done that they were working on the second one because they got to pump these out like every year or two. So, but that was nice to hear. And I think it's just nice to get confirmation now because you had all those rumors that sounded pretty definite that it was going to happen. So now it's nice to know that it is confirmed. They're on their way out and that they're going to be moving on and the new the new people in the studio are going to be taking over.
Yeah, this is from RPG site. They're going to own Myoji, which is a Chinese developer known for mobile games right now, but they're apparently trying to enter the space. So maybe he will make console games for them.
I think they picked a pretty good person. He's got quite the track record.
Monkey Ball, Yakuza?
F-Zero.
F-Zero? Yeah.
He's made some good
played
games.
some of that this week. I was playing a little F-Zero.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was just on the Monkey Ball kick and just kind of led into that. But yeah, we will see how it goes. I mean, I think that the Yakuza series will probably be fine. Although, there's examples of this working and of it not working. I mean, Shigeru Miyamoto hasn't directed a Mario game in like a decade. And the last two to come out that he has not directed, 3D World and Odyssey, are like my two favorite Mario games. So there's an example of training up someone new in the series, like, flies from it. But then I think about Ace Attorney and kind of the dip in quality seen after that creator left. And for a series based so much on its story and its writing, that's a little concerning if you just don't have the same people behind it. But I guess it's the head writer who's taking over as director. So we'll see. I can see it going either way, but I think it'll probably be fun.
It's also interesting because they just made this huge series shift to RPG combat. Yeah. Like, it's nice that they got the first one out the door before these guys left. That'd be weird if they went for this entire series shakeup when they left. But now that they've only got one game in this new style under their belt, I'll be curious what this new team will do to improve on that and what they bring to the table for the second game. But we'll see. We won't know. We won't know how the quality fares until the next game comes out, presumably in another year. But
next year, next fall.
Yeah, most likely every year.
Yeah, like clockwork.
I
You
mean,
getting tired of them yet, Kevin?
not yet. It's like the perfect amount of length. And then Judgment and Lost Judgment went 2 years apart. It was just Judgment and then Like a Dragon and then Lost Judgment and then presumably the next one in another year.
And then Judgment 3, Kaito
Starring
takes the
Kaito
lead.
only. Yeah.
That's going to be
They've
sad.
got a good system going on, though.
Yeah. Zach, where you at on Lost Judgment?
Haven't started it yet.
Let's go.
It did take me a couple months to play Like a Dragon. Sometimes I just gotta come out. I'm busy. I wait a little bit, and I'm like, I'm really in the mood for 30 hours of a good old Yakuza game. So just as soon as that hits me, I know one will be waiting there for me.
If you wait too long, there'll be several.
And then there's gonna be 8 of them. It's 8 years later. I'm panicking.
And then
yeah.
you're just right back where you were a couple years ago, and you had to play through all the games.
That was a great time though. I enjoyed playing.
Yeah. Yeah, what a time that was.
six or seven Yakuzas.
Yeah, 0 through 6. One experience.
And then both Kiwamis.
Yeah.
I played 2. I didn't play the original first one, but I played the original second
2,
one.
and then went back to
For 6, and then both Kiwamis.
You
So
played 8 Yakuzas in like a year? Oh my gosh. That's so much.
What a time.
That was the year of Yakuza. Every year that was.
Well, Zach, are you in the mood for some good old 90 hours of GTA? Because you can get it.
I put way more than 90 hours into GTA growing up, so I bet I could do it again.
Yeah, so the long-rumored GTA Trilogy remaster, including GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, was finally confirmed after like a million leaks. It's like the worst kept secret. And it's coming out on PS5, PS4, all Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and PC. But seems like they're delisting the old versions. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Too.
That is a concern, especially because we've had situations in the past where companies bring out new versions of the games and they're not as good as the versions that were on the market before.
Yeah.
Because what? Blizzard did that with... Oh, man, what was that? It was a recent game.
Oh, was it Dota? Or... I know what you're talking about because the new version was broken.
Yeah.
Then they replaced all the old saves so no one could go back to the original version if they had downloaded the new version. Yeah, what was that? I can't remember.
Either way, we've seen that happen, and sometimes it doesn't turn out well.
It's a bit of a catastrophe.
I mean, in one way, I can understand not wanting to confuse people, having the Trilogy and the Trilogy Definitive Edition both on the market at the same time. But also, you're always a little bit concerned, like, is this version actually going to be good? Also, they didn't show anything off. This game is supposed to come out by the end of the year, or this collection. Yeah. The end of the year is in 2.5 months.
2.5 months.
How is there... And these games are old. How is there not any gameplay? It was literally just, like, the logos of the original games.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
It says they're going to include graphical improvements and modern game. Yeah. So, I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
it's really weird that we have not seen that.
I don't know, and it just reminds me of their GTA 5 trailer recently, where they're like, "Hey, it's coming to current gen consoles," and we're not going to say what there really is that's new. You'll have to wait to find out. Also, we're going to delay it.
That was not a good announcement.
No,
this one was also not announced well. Although I heard that these were apparently to be free along with GTA 5. Like, if you bought the PS5 version, you would get these 3 games. But now that the definitive edition of GTA 5 was delayed, they're just like, okay, well, we'll just pump out the trilogy as its own product.
People will buy it.
That's all rumors.
GTA, like,
yeah, people
are going to be buying this trilogy, and then they're going to go out and buy GTA 5 on PS5 or Series X.
Yeah.
Rockstar knows this.
So I think we sound pretty negative on this. I think the big positive is that GTA games are coming to Switch for the first time. So
no more Chinatown
GTA trilogy on Switch.
Chinatown Wars is like the only
oh my god
GTA game on a Nintendo platform.
You had that, Zach?
I had that on DS. Yeah.
Was it good?
Was it any good?
No, it was horrible. It was so bad. And then I played the original 2 GTA 1 and 2 on PC, and they were also really bad.
They're a
Like,
little
3
different.
is,
A little different.
and
than the
they're very
more modern
different.
games.
Well, yeah, the Chinatown one's very similar to 1 and 2, and then just not good. And then yeah, 3 is where the series really found its stride with the 3D.
It is a big deal though coming to Switch. Like I've always wondered, like
Yeah.
if GTA 5 were to ever come over, I mean, it'd be like the older versions,
Cloud.
obviously.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks they would do the cloud, but I'd rather have them just do an older version that was on card or something. But either way, I always wondered like how well that would do because the game already sells ridiculous amounts every single like week. It's on these like top selling games list, and then you have a console that basically has 100 million users. Like you have to imagine that there's going to be a lot of sales on Switch that for GTA 5 haven't happened yet.
Yeah. Yep, so that's coming sometime in the next 2.5 months, apparently. Yeah, bizarre announcement. And then on the other side of the coin, Saints Row got some new trailers. And Kevin, you're the Saints Row guy. What'd you see?
It looks good. One of my biggest problems with Saints Row 3 and 4 was that Steelport, the city that you were in, was pretty boring. Like there wasn't a whole lot of variation. It's just like a huge metropolitan city, and then there's like a park in the center. Whereas if you go back to the earlier Saints Row games, they have a lot of like districts that set themselves apart. And I think that's what they're trying to bring back with the new Saints Row. And that's what they were kind of showing off is some of the different districts. You have like the downtown center. You have like the more desert area. You've got kind of the gated communities out up on the hills. And you have some more like the tech sections for the hacker group that's in there. So they showed off some of the different districts. The game looks good. Some of the animations are coming back. If you jump in the car, it looks just like right out of Saints Row 3 and 4, but it looks a lot more fluid here. They showed off some more gameplay stuff. You can hop on the roof of the car. It's not just for roof surfing, car surfing that you were able to do before. You can get on the roof and like shoot from there, and you can have someone drive while you're on the roof of the car shooting, which looked cool. Showed off some of the different cars. It looks like they're very arcadey on the handling. You can really move your car around in the air. The drifting seems like it's very easy to control. Gunplay looks like Saints Row. I think it looks good. And
it's on current gen, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Or last gen, I guess.
Yeah, technically. Yeah. Yes, it is on last gen and current gen.
Okay.
I'm just glad they're showing off more about this game because this is the stuff that they needed to show when they first announced it. I think it was such a bad way to announce the game for longtime Saints Row fans who have been waiting for this game for 8 years since Saints Row 3, or people who've been waiting since Saints Row 1 and 2 and didn't really like the later games. I don't think the CG trailer really did it for a lot of people. But now that you're seeing a lot more of the gameplay and Game Informer's doing more of a deep dive and showing off some of like the side content and doing the criminal enterprises, which sound cool. You have like the legitimate businesses that hide the illegitimate side of the business. And they were doing the Los Pollos Hermanos from Breaking Bad, basically, of just like having having a restaurant serve as a front. The more that they show off about this game, I think the more good it looks. And I think the more Saints Row fans are going to be excited for it because it started off so poorly, but I think they're starting to pick up their stride here.
Yeah, it was a really weird announcement.
Yeah.
It was super weird.
Yeah. I hope that people who felt a little bit burned by that trailer have seen some more of the newer content that's being released because I think it looks quite good.
And people who are like, I mean, the GTA 5 remaster is getting a lot of hate. So people who are looking for something and are kind of mad at GTA right now, maybe they'll pick it up too. This could be a hit. It's just coming out in a really congested time.
Yeah, we'll see how it does with all the other games coming out, but that seems to be the way it goes if you're releasing in the first half of 2022. All these games that probably were supposed to come out partway through this year that got moved to next year. And then the games that were just supposed to come out next year are already there. Going to be bunched up. I hope it does well, though.
Zach, anything to say on Saints Row?
Never played one, never will. I'm GTA for life.
Dang, okay.
It's only one or the other. You can't have both.
Kevin has both.
I do both.
No, he doesn't.
I think Saints Row is the better. At least the first two games, I think, is the better games. The more fun games, I should say.
Yeah, I've always admired it from afar. They look really fun. I've just never had the chance to play one.
Well, if you get a chance, got some free time and this game's out, you should give it a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is it for news this week. Light week. Not much going on. Because games are just coming out.
Yeah. Just talk about
That's
new
what I
games.
prefer. Games.
Far Cry 6.
Yeah,
Far
both
Cry
of you guys pick
6.
up Far Cry 6? Playing it now?
Neither of us. Nope.
Not yet. We have to wait till it's $15.
Yeah, when it's like $10, I'll
like
look it up.
January?
Yeah. And I'm only playing if Zach agrees we can skip all cutscenes.
But Gus from Breaking Bad is in it. I want to hear him monologue.
For like 30 minutes. Okay, we'll watch his first 10-minute monologue.
30 minutes a cutscene, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to hearing your guys' thoughts in a couple of months when that game hits the bargain bin.
Throw it on Game Pass. Please.
Are a lot of Ubisoft games on there, or are they all on their own service that no one buys?
Yeah. I don't know if any Ubisoft games are on there.
I thought I saw some Far Cry's on there, but I might have just imagined that. The Primal, I don't know.
Next, we're playing Gears of War next. That's the next series we're diving into.
Forgot about
the
that.
old Xbox FPSs.
Yeah.
I've never played one.
Yeah, I didn't
FPS,
either.
or are they third person?
I guess they are third
third-person
person.
shooters?
That's true.
I guess I would assume they were first person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, but they're all, I believe they're all online, and they're all on Game Pass.
Yeah.
So we're going to try those out.
All right.
Because we're done with Halo 5, Zach.
Yes, we are. I've officially finished all of the Halos, all of the mainline Halos. You can play, what's the top-down one called?
Halo
Halo
Wars.
Wars? Yeah.
Halo Wars. I didn't play any of the spin-offs, but I have played all of the mainline Halos, so I guess it's the year of Halo.
Did you read
which
any
I
of
did
the
not see
novels?
coming. Read all of the novels just to get the lore.
Uh,
I know all of the lore. No, I didn't.
it's all
A lot
about
of
Cortana.
novels.
It never
Yeah,
ends.
I don't want to read them. I don't want to read the novels. It's just all Cortana. I guess if that does it for news, we will move into what we've been playing. I'll kick it off since we did just beat Halo yesterday, Halo 5. Logan and I, we sat down, played like the last 8 chapters in under like 2 hours. Some chapters were just like 2-minute like walking
Really?
chapters. So it went by a lot faster than we were expecting. We weren't expecting to beat it when we sat down to do it. We had just gotten so close to the end in such a short amount of time that we decided to push through to the end and find Cortana and find Chief.
Find Chief, find Cortana.
It is probably the worst story in any Halo that I've ever played.
It's really bad.
It just, when the game started, I was really enjoying it because I was like, okay, find Cortana, find Chief. And then at the end, it's find Cortana, find Chief. It never changed. It was the same thing the entire game, and it just sucked. It sucked really bad.
When you play as Locke, the mission is always find Chief. And when you play as Chief, it always says find Cortana. So if you need to sum up the story of Halo 5 Guardians, that's it. Chief's looking for Cortana, and Locke's looking for Chief. At the end, they all find each other. Game over. That's
Done.
it.
You did it. You finally did it.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And when Logan was talking about Metroid Dread, he brought up the use of mini bosses to pad out time, the same mini boss over and over again. It reminded me of Halo 5 because it uses the same mini boss, I think like 6 times. Yeah, just to pad out time. And it's the only boss in the entire game, and they just keep reusing him, and he sucks. He's not even good. And it's just
Dude, that
really
didn't
annoying.
even occur to me. He is the only boss.
He's the only boss in the entire game, and he comes like every other level. He is just so annoying.
Dude, also, you do not split time between Chief and Locke in this game. There are 15 missions. I think you're Chief for 3 of them, and you're Locke for the other 12.
You are locked in.
Yep.
Yeah, keeping it locked. So that's kind of ridiculous. But the gunplay is good.
I love the gunplay.
Some of the environments are really cool. So I'm glad I finished it. I enjoyed it. The story's a joke.
I think it was technically the best feeling Halo game that I've played. With the shoulder charge melee additions, the reticle usage. There's a visor like HUD that you see that I guess some people don't really like, but it didn't really bother me. I just thought I was looking through Locke's eyes or Buck's eyes.
You were Buck.
I was Buck. You don't have to play as Locke. You can play as someone on his team, and I played as Buck, who was my favorite character from ODST, who made a surprising return in this game, which I was not expecting. I was excited. That put me in a good mood. That put me on Halo's good side, Halo 5's good side for a little bit. So the story just kind of wore me down, but overall, not my favorite Halo. Far from it, but still solid in terms of gameplay, and it was visually stunning. It was a very beautiful game, and like Logan said, I liked a lot of the level design, especially like saying Helios was a cool desert planet. You don't get deserts very often in Halo, so I thought
We started really blasting through at the end. Like, we just sped run past 100.
I do that in every Halo. Yeah, that's just a Halo standard for me, is to see how far you can get without dying.
Just by running through everything.
Sometimes you just get to the end of the level. It's whatever.
Like, I did it.
Yeah, the ending is really underwhelming. So spoilers for a mediocre 6-year-old game. There's no like big warthog chase out. There's no big final battle.
Halo.
It's just like a slow-mo cutscene where like you just push forward on the stick and you're like fighting against like the wind, trying to, you guessed it, reach Cortana, and then you
reaching
get there
Chief.
and it's over.
You got to get to Chief to save him from Cortana.
From Cortana. Yeah, and that's it, and then it's over. But I glitched out of the cutscene, so Zach is like barely like barreling through this level.
He's watching me crawl.
He's falling to the ground. I'm like running all around him, throwing grenades at him. I'm just not in the cutscene. So that was really funny.
What?
Yeah, it's because I killed myself. I just jumped off the ledge as the cutscene was starting, and then Zach got locked in, and I respawned, but I was not in the cutscene. I was just goofing around. It was really funny.
What a way to end it.
What's your Halo ranking, Zach? Full ranking.
I was pulling it up right now. I could probably, I bet I can remember it. It's Halo 2, Halo Reach, Halo 3, Halo 1, Halo 4, Halo 5, Halo 3 ODST. I don't even hate ODST.
Yeah, seems reasonable.
Solid
I didn't
franchise.
like ODST at all. It's the only one I haven't finished. My
I liked it
ranking's
'cause of
probably
Buck.
pretty similar. Halo Reach is still my favorite.
Halo Reach was fantastic. I think overall, a game without Chief, they did very well. I wasn't super attached to Team Noble, but by the end, I was pretty satisfied with their character arcs.
How much Halo have you played, Kev?
Man, I can't remember which games I've completed the stories of and which I haven't, but I've played at least a large majority of 1, 2, 3, and Reach. Played like 2 levels of Halo 4 and was not a fan. And that's about it.
Well,
I'll have to go back at some point and play through all the games. I've
very
got them all.
curious of what Infinite's going to be.
Yeah.
Very
especially
curious
considering
about
that Halo 5 did not have a good story, and they are explicitly not showing a whole lot from the campaign.
Yeah. They're not even following the story up. This was supposed to be part 2 of a trilogy, and they just are abandoning it for Halo Infinite. It's just gone. That's funny.
They just realized Halo 5 was not a good place to be.
Yeah, they're like, we need to hit the nuke button on this right now. We got to read thing. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, Halo.
Well, we got to move on because we got a lot of more games to talk about that we played.
Got some games on here. My God.
We also sat down together and beat No More Heroes 3, second half of the game. Let's go. Man, where to even begin? Yeah, it's No More Heroes. It felt like No More Heroes till the very end. There was a lot of switch ups in this one. I felt like there was a lot more switch ups in this one than in the first two, where the guy you think you're going into fight is not the person that you go into fight. I feel like they might have overused it a little bit, because by like the last couple times it happened, I wasn't even surprised a little bit. Like that factor had completely gone out the window. I was more so expecting it to happen than anything else. But yeah, I liked it a lot. There's a lot of returning characters and important plot points that come from the game we did not play.
That's great.
Which was kind of
Ridiculous.
weird. I thought that was really
Ridiculous.
stupid because it's not even a mainline game. It's like 2.5. It's like Kingdom Hearts all over again. Like this game should not be this important to the story.
It was like a broken record. We'd be watching, we'd be like, who the heck is this guy? I would look it up and I would read, blank is a character that appears in Travis Strikes Again. And it would just happen every time. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot that happened we did not understand. Even like the main villain of the game apparently has a connection to Travis Strikes Again. We didn't know
there was
about.
like a big reveal that the main villain was actually a character from Travis Strikes Again. Didn't really get that at the time.
Yeah.
So,
but it was
fine.
good. The final boss had a really stressful second phase that was easy, but it took like 20 minutes. And we were pretty low on health by the end of the 20-minute run. And God, that would have been painful to go back and redo that. But I will say the best thing about this is that the grind is gone. We figured it out. You collect these like parts every time you kill a boss, and the parts can be used to upgrade Travis, or you can just sell them. And we sold them all
That's what
and
we
didn't have to
did, yeah.
grind at all. And that's just how we made money. We went on one big selling spree, and we were funded for the rest of the game for fights like 4 through 1. We didn't have to grind at all. And that made it a really enjoyable experience.
Yeah. Goodness, because when we first started the game, it was right after it came out, so we couldn't look up what the strat was to avoid the grind.
Yeah.
So we just had to grind, and then we waited so long that someone was like, "Yeah, you can just sell stuff," and we were like, "All right,
Cool.
it's the way to do it."
Yeah.
So it did make it a
nice.
lot more enjoyable. Overall, I liked it a lot. I love that franchise. I think it's got a lot of style.
It was my favorite one. I think that it was the most
Yeah.
streamlined. The combat was the best.
The overworld was pretty
It was horrible, but
pretty
I loved
horrible.
it.
Yeah.
Like 12 frames a second.
Oh,
it was
God.
nasty.
Barren wastelands of nothingness. You're
Yeah.
just driving to checkpoint after checkpoint.
Humans walking around you can't even like interact with. They're just there. It's just like
Yeah.
there's only like 3 of them.
I think
What
this
is this?
game is held by its boss fights. I like the combat a lot.
Mhm.
I think that's all you really need is a lot of good style and a lot of good combat. So
The
Good game.
credit scene had maybe the most random crossover reference I've ever seen in my life.
oh yeah, what was it? It was like some sort of
Okay,
mech
it was
thing.
it was
I didn't know what it was.
slight
at the time.
spoilers for the credits of No More Heroes 3. Travis is just like, oh, look at that. It's a mech from Damon X Machina.
What?
And then he gets in it. And he's like flying around
What?
into the credits. And I think it's the same publisher, Marvelous, I think.
Okay, yeah.
But it's like so random. It's like, Damon X Machina, let's go. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no one played that game.
They're
didn't
trying
even know
to
what it
keep
was.
alive.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Also, the final boss fight, No More Heroes does really cool twists on its genres. Like it mimics genres a lot, and the final boss
Oh.
fight mimics the genre near and dear to my heart and Zach's heart. But I won't say what it was, but it was. So yeah, good game. Best one.
Best
Far.
one. All right.
That's the end. Not making any more of these.
They
Done.
aren't. That's it. Yeah.
Done.
the end of
Can't
the
go
series.
anywhere after a Damon X Machina crossover.
No, that's the peak to go out
No,
on.
nowhere to go but down. Yeah. And then another game I beat, shorter. I played Imposter Factory.
How
also
was
known
it?
as
I've
The Moon 3.
I saw that it came out, but that was it. I haven't played it yet.
Yes, it came out on September 30th, so it's been out for a little while. It's very short. It only took me about 3 hours to beat it. They
How much
typically
was it?
are, so it was one sitting. It's like $10,
Okay.
I think. Yeah, so those games are typically very cheap because they're not very long. But I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot more than Finding Paradise, which I wasn't a crazy huge fan of.
Okay.
I liked Finding Paradise, but it was a bit of a, To the Moon was a lot to follow up on. It was very popular. And I think that Imposter Factory had a lot of unique feeling to it. Like, it didn't try and be like To the Moon. It did a lot of its own thing, but still retained a lot of what that series has to offer. So, yeah, I liked it a lot. I don't have a lot to say about it. It was very short, and most of it was story. So, anything I would say would be spoilers, but yeah, you can find this entire series for very cheap, and they're all very short, so I recommend playing them. They're good emotional journeys,
Is Imposter
full
Factory
of
also a
interesting
good like
characters.
emotional journey? You have those
It is.
moments like in the last two?
It is a bit of an emotional journey. I did like the main characters, and it did have a interesting connection to the main story. Like if it's a bit associated for the entire game, and then it connects to the greater story more near the end.
Okay.
I didn't know how it was going to. I didn't really see it coming, but I liked how it all tied in. Although the connection was a little loose, but I liked it a lot. So,
All right. Yeah, I gotta get around to playing it.
yeah. Yeah, I
What'd you
kind
play it
of
on?
want to see. That's all it's on.
Gotcha.
Was it just To the Moon that came out on Switch, or did Finding Paradise also make it over?
I don't think
Finding Paradise
is there yet.
is not currently on Switch. There's plans for it to come to Switch, but there's no date or anything.
Yeah.
So I assume at some point it will just drop. I'm still waiting on my physical To the Moon from limited run games. I ordered that, and
When did you
it
order
said
Because I'm
ordered
waiting
it
on
in
Bug
March.
Fables as well.
I ordered it in March. It said estimated shipping would be August, and then I looked at it like a week ago, and then it updated to estimated shipping October, and then it still hasn't shipped. So
At least you got an estimated time. Mine's just like
yeah.
it's just
So who
not
knows?
shipped yet, like in development or whatever.
Yeah, we will see. Hopefully I get that by the end of the year, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, that is the thing you got to be prepared for with limited run. Like if it's
Yeah.
a game that you want to play, be prepared to wait for that for at least like
Logan's
half a year
golf
or longer.
story was like the longest he ever
Oh my
waited for a
gosh.
game.
Yeah. I was like, am I still gonna be living here by the time I get this?
Am I still gonna be living?
Yeah.
That's a real concern, yeah. Could have like 2 or 3 moves by the time you get something from them. So
Yeah.
make sure you keep your address updated on their
Ship
website.
it to or ship to an
To a
address
PO box.
You know we'll be steady.
Yeah. Anything else, Zach?
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Other than the 3 games I beat, I also had a chance to dive into Back 4 Blood, which just came out. Spiritual successor to the Left 4 Dead franchise, which was a franchise I'm a really big fan of. I haven't played a lot of it, but what I have played, I loved. So me and a friend of mine played it on PC. I played it on Series S because it came to Game Pass for free, so I didn't even have to buy it. I just have access to it. I downloaded it. He played it on PC. There's cross-play between every console, so you can play with whoever you want. We hopped on. It was a weird introduction because I skipped all the tutorials because I was just like, he'll teach me how to play.
All right.
Yeah, he played like a level, so he knows the basics. He can teach me. He didn't know him very well, so I just had to figure out a lot of the stuff on my own. It's interesting because it's like a card deck building system, which I wasn't expecting because you don't really expect that from that type of video game. So the game starts you off with a starter deck of like these bonuses you get per level, like 10% up stamina, reload speed, extra medicine, stuff like that. So you get a starter deck, and then you can just hop right into solo campaign, co-op campaign, stuff like that. So he and I just hopped into the campaign setting. It's divided into 4 acts, Act 1 being the longest, and they each get shorter as you go. And difficulty ramps up, but the card system, so you start off with your deck or however, and then you can progressively get cards throughout the acts, and they all stack, so you just keep getting stronger as the difficulty ramps up. So it's a very balanced system of Act 1 through 4. And it is extremely Left 4 Dead. It's a lot of fun. I like it a lot. There's a bunch of hordes of zombies. We were playing it on rookie difficulty or recruit difficulty, something. It's the easiest difficulty, so it wasn't crazy intense, but it was still challenging a lot at times. So I can imagine that you'd want 4 people to play with on the harder difficulties because the 2 AI bots we had were doing literally nothing. They were basically just there to exist. I really felt like they didn't have a lot to offer, but my friend and I were getting all of the kills, so good enough. Love the weapon options. I think it's pretty generous in the amount of stuff it gives you. I never came close to running out of ammo. I think that might have just been a difficulty thing. But the safe rooms are always chock full of supplies and stuff like that, and there's shops. You can collect money throughout the levels to buy stuff at the shops, and it carries on. You keep your weapons throughout the acts. So once you go from Act 1 to Act 2, you lose all your stuff, but all throughout Act 1, you keep all your weapons, even though you're going from safe room to safe room. And there's good checkpoints, too, so once you hit a certain level in the act, you can start your campaign from that point forward. And there's, I think, 8 characters in the game. You start off with the main 4, and once you get to like halfway through Act 1, you unlock the other 4. So you don't have to really do a whole lot to unlock all the characters in this game. So that's good, too. So overall, pretty good ease of entry to new players. I didn't think any of it was particularly overcomplicated, and it was a lot of fun. I think the zombie enemies are pretty diverse and terrifying. There's this one dude who's really tall who has just a massive single arm, and he just like uses it as a lever just to crush you. And there's big guys. It's what stuff you imagine from Left 4 Dead usually crosses over to this. There's newer, more intense levels of zombies than I think Left 4 Dead had to offer, so that's good too for people looking for a challenge. And I'm excited to play the rest of the campaign. I know Logan and I want to dive in really head first into this and try and get through the whole thing. So excited to play a lot more of that.
First person kick over here.
Yeah,
I know.
All these first person shooters.
Imposter Factory. First person shooter.
First person shooter right there. Totally.
But that's it for my
Lots of
laundry
games.
list of video games this week.
Logan, you want to go through since you've already talked about some of the games that you played this week?
Yeah, not much else to add. A little bit more Lost Judgment. Still been really busy, so haven't had a ton of time. I mean, Metroid was all I was playing this weekend.
Yeah.
But gonna get back into that. And then Banana Mania.
How's that going?
Haven't had any major changes on my thoughts on
Don't
that.
love it. Yeah.
Yeah, just feels like a missed opportunity still. Because it could be the perfect Monkey Ball package if it felt as good as the old ones. But, oh well. I booted up my GameCube and played the old ones, and I'm like, yeah, they're still so much better. Zach and I played a little bit of the old one. It's just,
It felt good to
just
remember some of those levels. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and then I did also pick up the amiibo for Metroid Dread. And Samus is fine. It was easy. I mean, yeah. I shared my technique last week, and it worked.
All right.
At like 10:55 p.m. on Thursday night, they appeared on Best Buy, and I just scooped them up. I also could have gotten a Switch OLED and the Metroid Dread Special Edition, but I did not get either because I did not want either. But they were there, and I was like, man, does this work for everything? Does this work for everything?
Everything releases at this one time.
Yeah. But the Samus is fine, but the Emmy is like one of the coolest amiibo they've ever made.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's really nicely detailed. Really cool. So, yeah. And got me 10 extra missiles early on in the game for scanning it in.
Woo!
That was nice.
Nice.
Yeah, but yeah, just looking forward to playing more Lost Judgment, getting back into Deathloop, and Life is Strange this weekend. My sister's coming to visit, so we're going to marathon it this weekend, so I'll be done with it next week.
Oh, God. Did I talk about beating Wavelength on this show?
You did last week, yeah.
Oh, good. I thought I had more to talk about.
No, pretty sure you did.
How about you, Kev?
More Lost Judgment. It's still a good time. I'm getting close to the end, I think. Chapter 12? 11 or 12. I forget which one. But
you know how many there are?
I know there's only like 3 more trophies for chapters.
Oh,
also, speaking of the
like
trophies,
a way to check.
It was bizarre. Chapter 10 just doesn't have a trophy. Every other chapter does.
That's really
but
weird.
Chapter 10 doesn't. So like when it didn't pop, I was just like,
is Chapter 10 special in any way?
No, it's just a chapter. There's nothing
That's
made me
really
think that it was
weird.
going to be there. So I'm like for a second I was like, oh, did my internet go out and it didn't like register?
Uh-huh.
And then I went back and looked through the trophy list. It's just not there. I don't know if they forgot.
They just forgot.
or
They straight up forgot.
forgot Chapter 10.
That's crazy.
With DLC. It's with it's just the Kaito chapters. It's Chapter 10.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, the story is getting crazy. Yeah, it's getting weird. I don't want to say too much more about it, but of course there's some very heavy subjects that appear in that game. And so then it's just like you're just looking at all these different people's point of view, and sometimes Yagami and how he deals with everything, I'm not sure I 100% agree with it sometimes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been hearing about this game. Is
Um,
that they don't handle some sensitive stuff quite the right way.
yeah,
Trying to get people to dislike Yagami when they can write him off.
yeah. So that from what I played, I don't know how the story ends. Of course, I'm not done with it yet.
Mhm.
But as of now, I think that the original Judgment had a better story and a more tight story too, because they kind of in this game they kind of throw a lot at you. You've got the school, you've got some other characters that come in later, you've got a gang that appears, and just like how they all connect and other characters. So I mean, it doesn't get to the point where I'm like actively lost of like I don't know what's
Mhm.
happening, but at the same time, sometimes it feels like some things are more loosely connected and than the original, which I felt like was a lot more of a tight and cohesive story.
I
But it's still
love the
good.
original story.
It's still a
So
good
cool.
story. It just doesn't reach to the heights that the original Judgment did. And then beyond that,
Mhm.
the rest of the game's good. I've been enjoying doing some of the school stories um, and having all the different gameplay there. Doing the esports, playing Virtua Fighter. Uh,
Oh yeah.
I'd never played a Virtua Fighter game, and then they're just like, "Oh, you got to beat all three of us," and I just wiped the floor with them by just button mashing. So I kind of appreciated that it wasn't like brutal, and I didn't actually have to learn the game. But yeah, and then some of the side stories with some of the schools and the students and stuff have been good. So where the main story has faltered, some of the side cases have picked up some of the slack. But it's still good. I've been enjoying going around and exploring the maps as always. Still a good time, even if the story hasn't reached the heights of the original. And then I'm back on a Stardew Valley kick.
Oh
Got back
yeah.
together with some friends,
When
and
aren't you?
there was a time I hadn't, I was playing it off and on, like maybe once every 2 months there. I mean, it doesn't
Uh-huh.
help the time difference. Makes it very hard to find time to play. But specifically, we finally we finished the community center in our save, and that is when all of the new content opens like instantly. Like as soon as that's done, the new content shows up, and you start working on all of that. So since we had to stop right when we finished the community center, I'm just like, oh, I want to keep playing, but we can't find a good time to play for a little while. So I started up a new solo farm on PC. Was playing some of that earlier. I'm back in, and then of course,
Nice.
whenever we get the time to play some more, we'll do that, and I'll finally get to experience the new area and a lot more of the new content beyond just like the randomized community center and the bulletin board missions and stuff, which have already been like really great additions. I can't imagine the game without it, but I know that a lot more of the substantial content is still to come with the new area that opens up after the community center.
Mhm.
I'm back in.
Man,
Fully back in.
Kevin's playing a Yakuza game in Stardew.
What
How
year
many
is this?
episodes are
Throwback.
those the two games that he talks about?
Uh,
They're great.
100?
They're great. They're both fantastic games.
they should combine them.
Oh God. I
A
mean, they kind
Yakuza
of did
farming
with like
simulator.
they had farming in Like a Dragon.
I
They had
don't know if I
you had
did that.
planting stuff. You could plant
Oh
like
my god,
flowers
yeah,
and
I forgot
stuff.
about that.
So technically
grow-
there is.
I grow tomatoes or something. I don't remember what.
Yeah. All right, why don't we get into the O2 because it is October. Let's talk about some spooky games. I was going to say that not all of us are into spooky games, but Zach plays some. He's got
The resident spooky expert.
Yeah, he's the resident spookster. So why don't we go with you first, Zach, as
Oh, God.
the one that has played the most spooky / horror / something Halloween game. What are your thoughts on spooky games, and what are some of your favorites?
Well, I've always been into the horror game genre as a whole. Growing up, I wasn't a fan of horror movies. I just didn't like them. I wasn't really scared by them. They didn't really offer much, usually, in terms of story. So my whole horror experience was always coming from video games because I thought that being in them made them a lot more scary and a lot more intense.
So I don't like
And
them.
Get stressed
I know,
out?
yeah. Now I like horror movies a lot, but for a long time there, it was just horror games for me. So I played a lot of them, especially back in the era of like 2010 to 2015, like the Amnesias, the Slenders. Like
That was a big
there was-
time for those.
There was a big time for horror games for like those early jump scare kind of, carry a lantern around in the dark
Yeah.
and avoid the
All over
monster.
YouTube back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. I watched that on YouTube all the
Isn't
time. I
that how
bought those
PewDiePie
games.
got
I played.
famous?
Yeah, he got famous from Amnesia.
Oh, it was Amnesia? Okay, it wasn't Minecraft?
No, he did not play Minecraft. He played
No?
Amnesia
Okay.
and Happy Wheels. Those were like his two
Wheels.
things.
Okay, yeah.
For like 3 years, he would just scream at those games until he became
Dude,
famous.
what's Happy Wheels? That sounds so familiar.
It's just
Happy
the
Wheels
one
is
where
a
you have,
free-to-play PC game where
all
you
the
can
different
play
people
as
in there.
a
They get all
old man in a
destroyed.
wheelchair with a rocket, or a
Oh
dad
my
and
The
his
gears
son on
will
a
kill you and blow you
bicycle.
up. There's a
That's
horror game.
unlocking a part of my brain.
I kid you
I haven't
not.
thought about.
That was
making
such a
played
big
Happy
thing
Wheels.
back in high school.
I played it a
Yeah.
week ago. That's
Why?
weird, right?
How did that come
I,
up?
I was like sitting at my computer, like working, and I was like, "Oh man, Happy Wheels!" And then I like looked it up to see if it was still available,
course
and it
it's still
was. And I played
available.
it for like 10 minutes. I
Oh
played
my
some of the levels I
gosh.
made from 2012.
Wow, they're still there. You can still find them.
They're still there on the server. Yeah, I looked up.
Totally forgot about that game.
It blew my
that's-
mind.
Anyways, getting back to Spook.
Sorry, that game is not scary. Yeah, so that's really, I think, what kicked off my enjoyment of the horror series was how big it was and popular back in those days. So I played a lot of Amnesia. A lot of the fan-made levels I thought were really cool. How you could just like make your own little stories and then have those fan-made things. And then I played Slender, the 8 pages, and then Slender: The Arrival. Played a lot of the Slender with friends. Most of these, I do not play a lot of horror games alone. It's more of a group of friends or a couple friends activity, so you can share in the spooks together.
Yeah.
It's never fun being spooked alone. That's just sad, getting scared by yourself. So it's always fun to play it with a group of people. So that's how I typically like to play these. And then moving past that, I played some more popular ones, like Logan and I played Resident Evil 2 back in the beginning of 2019. Right? 2019?
Yes.
Right? Yeah, that's right. That was an amazing game. That was the first Resident Evil I've ever played, and still the only Resident Evil I've ever played. And that was that introduced me to
Gorgeous game.
the stalking enemy of Mr. X, that genre of horror, which I wasn't totally accustomed to at the time. And the zombies in that game take a lot, and then they just keep coming back. That's my least favorite kind of zombie, is the one that goes down and then gets back up.
You never know if they're fully
Never.
dead.
Exactly, until their head explodes. But the game has a lot of interesting horror tropes that I hadn't experienced until that moment. Like the jump scares were very commonplace in the original era of horror, getting into that stalking presence. And then another one I'll mention real quick, one of the ones I played very recently that I talked about on the show was my experience playing Alien Isolation, which is one of the best horror games I've ever played. I think that one has crazy good tension building with the sound design of hearing the xenomorph up in the vents above you, and not knowing if he can see you or not. He has eyes in the back of his head. I think he is one of the best AI for that kind of horror stalking enemy. Yeah, that was. I had taken a break from horror games for a while. Like I played some of the smaller ones here and there, but really diving into a horror game where you actually have to avoid a very terrifying enemy, it felt good to dive back into that, and it was really good to get back into that. So it's probably the best one I played in a long time, and I'm excited to maybe dive back into it because I didn't get to experience a whole lot of it. So yeah, that's my
the time. It's October.
Exactly. Now's the time to get back into those spooky games that I've put down. So
Yeah.
excited to do some more of that.
Logan, how about you? You much for the spooks?
I hate the spooks. I am not a fan of the spooks. Resident Evil 2, Zach and I swapped the controller until I couldn't handle it anymore. And then I just kind of watched him after that. We did beat the game the first playthrough together. But the second playthrough was so similar, only Mr. X was more aggressive. And I was like, I can't do it.
I'm out.
He was there all the time. He was there so much in the second playthrough. And then my girlfriend playing Resident Evil 7 is always hilarious because she thought she could play it in VR.
Oh my
And
god.
VR horror is a different thing entirely.
She about crapped her pants 5 minutes in, and then she's like, okay, I'll try out of VR. She made it like 10 more minutes and was just shaken, and then we sold the game on Facebook Market. So, yeah, that's a fun memory. Because, yeah, I was just studying Japanese, watching her just struggle through this game in VR, just cussing left and right. It's really funny. But, yeah. I didn't even touch the controller. I had no interest in playing Resident Evil 7. Until Dawn, which I'm sure Kevin will talk more about. Since he's the one who actually played it. But that was a fun Halloween. That was on Halloween.
Yeah, played through the whole thing.
Together. That was fun. The Last of Us.
I played through that game a lot.
At the time, The Last of Us was kind of pushing it for me in terms of horror that I could handle. But I just care about the story so much that I powered through. I had to have Zach watch because I did not like playing it alone. But then Last of Us 2, I was able to just, grit my teeth and make it through that on my own. But yeah, those games stressed me out. Amnesia, I played for like 5 minutes at a friend's house in 7th grade, and I was hiding in like a wardrobe, and it scarred me for life. I hated that because he made me play with headphones with all the lights off and curtains drawn, and I hated it. And then he tried to scare me like the rest of that day. Not cool. And then non-horror games, but fun spooky games. Luigi's Mansion 3 was a blast to play when it came out on Halloween, 2019. That's just a really fun, friendly Halloween game that is not really scary at all. Kids might find it scary, though. I could see kids finding some of the ghosts in Luigi's Mansion a little scary. And then non-horror games with scary moments. The end of Uncharted 1 with the monsters that chase you.
Just kind of comes out of nowhere, really.
Yeah, and it gets scary. It gets horror-esque. You're like in dark corridors with a flashlight as these things are lunging at you on all fours. It gets scary. That's a freaky ending to that game. And then when I was younger, in the Ocarina of Time, in the first temple you play as in a forest temple, there's the floor masters that in specific rooms come down and grab you from the ceiling. I used to like hit a wall at that dungeon because I'm like, I'm not going in that room. But you have to, and I'm like, I'm not going in there. I can't do it. And so those used to freak me out too. But no, not much for the horror genre. I can do like some spookier, like Metroid Dread is like creepy atmosphere with some creepy enemies, but it's not horror. I don't really.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the same way. The closest thing that got to horror for me was probably Until Dawn, which toeing the line there. Scariest part of that game was when there was the section where I'm not supposed to move the controller. I didn't move the controller, and it said that I did, and someone died.
Yeah,
very end.
It'd be like that.
Yeah. Sam? Is that her name?
I don't remember the characters' names at all.
Sam's the best character.
All I know is that one of the actors in that is now in the new James Bond movie.
Oh, really?
Which one?
Rami.
Is it
Malek?
Sam?
Oh, yeah. I forgot, Rami Malek. I forgot he's in that.
Yeah.
Josh.
He's in Until Dawn.
Yeah. No, that was a good time, and that was fun to play with you guys on Halloween. That's a good Halloween game. I wish that the later games that studio made were better, but they don't sound very good.
Man of Medan.
Man of Medan is so bad that it hurts.
But Until Dawn was a good time, and that was a good one to play with people on Halloween to get that reaction when something would happen or if you failed one of the quick times or whatever, and everyone gets on your case. But that was fun. That's probably the only actual horror type game I played. BioShock kind of toes the line. It's not horror, but it is a very spooky atmosphere of just having these areas where there's basically nobody. Most of the people are dead as you're walking around, and then you have the big daddies who you have to watch out for, who are basically stalking around the area, and you've got some creepy enemies in creepy areas, and then there's a couple of jump scares throughout the game. So yeah, it's a little bit spook, but that's a good time. I highly recommend people play BioShock. It's good. Last of Us, yeah, there were some moments. There are some moments where I gotta hype myself up before going in a room or a section. I'm I know there's some stuff in there, and it's not gonna be fun, And so I just kind of stand outside for a second. I'm like, all right, I'm ready.
The
Let's go.
hotel in Last of Us 2. Oh
The
my
hotel.
God.
Which one?
You're working your way down.
Working way
the
down.
floors.
Yeah. There were some sections there where I was like,
Oh my gosh.
not great. And then Luigi's Mansion, I'll go with the original because it was actually kind of spooky as a kid playing that on GameCube, being 10 years old or something when I'm playing that. And I think that in comparison to like Luigi's Mansion 3, I think Luigi's Mansion 1 is a lot more spooky. I think it's a lot less light in terms of like the actual lighting. It's a lot more of like a dark atmosphere. And I feel like the ghosts are a lot less like cartoony than they get in some of the later games. So there's a little bit more of a scare factor. Obviously, it's not like super scary or anything, but for a kid who hasn't really played any other like horror type games, I think that's one of the Luigi's Mansion games would probably be a decent introduction to that.
Yeah, because Luigi's Mansion 3 is like a horror themed amusement park.
Right.
And like Luigi's Mansion 1 is like, oh, it's just a creepy mansion. So yeah, they're definitely very different in that way.
Yeah. But I remember having a good time playing through that back on GameCube as a kid. But beyond that, not too much more. Don't think I could make it through a Resident Evil game, except maybe the more action oriented ones, the more horror games. I don't think I could make it through. And then stuff like Amnesia, I just knew that I couldn't play, so I'm just like, I'm not gonna do that. But 'tis the season now for people who want to play the spooky games. It is October, so get on it. Zach, what are you gonna
play?
Five
Nights at Freddy's.
Oh God. Have not
Everybody
played
loves
any of those.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
You gonna play Spook Game for Halloween, Zach?
I gotta pick one out. I don't know which one I gotta some friends. Scariest game we can find. And just crap your pants, get terrified.
Sounds like Halloween. All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap up? We've been going on long enough.
Buy Metroid. It's great. And it needs to sell, so there can be more.
Yeah, I hope it sells well.
It's great. Dude, I just think about the Switch library, and it's like, this is probably going to be the best Nintendo library ever when it's all said and done.
It's pretty balanced. There's a lot on there.
Yeah.
Both new
I think
games
Metroid really fills it out.
New stuff, too.
It's like, I think it has, like, what people say are the best Zelda, not my favorites. I think the best Mario, the best Smash Bros. What a lot of people are already saying is the best Metroid. Luigi's Mansion 3 is excellent. New Horizons is already great, and it's getting new content. Like, just every series. Pokemon Legends could be good. Who knows? We don't know yet.
Well,
but I just feel like every series is just kind of going off. We're getting a 3D Kirby game.
Yeah, that's crazy.
On the Switch. Like, yeah. I think we're going to look back at this library and yeah, that's peak Nintendo.
Golden age. Zach, any final thoughts?
I hope they make a Castlevania as good as Metroid Dread. Gotta
These
compete.
people made a Castlevania game. They made Lords of Shadow. Mercury Steam, developers of Metroid Dread.
Lords of Shadow's good, but it's 3D. I want like a good new 2D Castlevania.
What about the Bloodstained games?
Yeah, it's probably your best bet.
I don't play Bloodstained. It's not Castlevania.
Well, Konami is not making anything anymore. Even though they say that they're going to, they're not.
They're doing that like survey or whatever, that contest.
Like, do you want me to make more pachinko machines, or do you want me to make Metal Gear Survive again?
No, I'm talking about that contest where they're like saying, "Hey, if you're a developer that wants to make Castlevania,
I didn't
hit
see
us
that.
up." Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they're like bringing back their old franchises through other developers.
All right.
Who do I want to make a Castlevania?
Mercury Steam, developers of Metroid Dread.
They're bad. I don't like them.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
They did make that horrible 3DS Castlevania that people hate.
Oh.
What's that like?
Oh.
Lords of Shadow, Mirrors of Fate? Is that what it's called?
That's the in-between of 1 and 2.
Okay.
Gross.
Is that the 3DS one?
I don't know if it's on 3DS. I don't know much about it.
Because they made it, yeah, I think that's the 3DS exclusive one that got like 4 out of 10s.
Ooh,
everywhere.
that's not good.
Yeah,
that's rough.
Then they made Samus Returns, and now they made this, and it's like,
they're on the upward swing.
Geez. Yeah, no kidding.
They've really picked themselves back up.
Nintendo should buy them and just make them the Metroid studio.
Oh, but then they can't make Castlevania.
That's okay.
All right, that's gonna do it for us. We've been going on long enough. We're here on Thursdays or Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, other podcast streaming services that you may use. OdaGames.com also has the audio version of the podcast. Video version's up on YouTube around the same time as the audio version. So you go to the Oda Games YouTube channel to check out the video version of the podcast. We're on Twitter at Oda Games. You can send an email to odagamescast@gmail.com. For Logan and Zach, I'm Kevin. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.